Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. It's Andrea from Create a Canvas. Today we're going to be doing our sunset silhouette, which is probably one of our top 5 most popular paintings. It's a really easy painting. I would say beginner to intermediate, depending on how detailed you want to make it. But it's a fun one to wrap up summer. We're getting ready to start fall, and so next month I'll be putting some more fall type activities in. But let's continue to keep celebrating summer as long as possible. So what you're going to need, I'll be using an 11 by 14 canvas. You can use a larger canvas. The typical size is 16 by 20. Just remember I might be painting a little bit faster, so if you feel like I'm going faster, don't worry. Just pause the video, and when you're ready, paint at your own speed, and then return to me when you're ready. You're going to need a good amount of different colors today. So some of the paintings, there's only a couple colors that you're going to need, but today you're going to need a lot. So basically I pour every color of the rainbow. We have purple, we have red, we have orange, we have yellow. We're going to be using phthalo green. So in your paint sets, there's two colors, phthalo blue, I'm sorry. There's two blues in your paint set. You want to pick the phthalo blue or the one that looks like it has more green in it. Then we're going to be using turquoise. If you don't have turquoise paint, you can make turquoise by blending blue, green, and white together, and you'll get a nice pretty turquoise. We always need white and we always need black, so make sure you always pour those colors before you start because you will use them. And we're going to only probably use 2 or 3 paint brushes today for this whole painting. You're going to use a big jumbo brush, so the biggest fat brush that you have. You're going to use a large angled brush, and I love angled brushes. I use them all the time, so if you have these, keep them safe because they're my favorite brush to use. Then you're going to use a small angled brush, and if you don't have an angled brush, you just want one that's about this size so that we can do some detail work with it. But the cool thing about angled brushes, especially for what we use them for, the trees and the moon, they're perfect for making perfect circles. They do the work for you, and they're really great for doing any type of leaves and things because it gives you like a wisp or a fray that a flat other brush wouldn't do. So try to find yourself some angled brushes. All right, and that's about it. So let's get started. We're going to start with our big jumbo brush first. So get it nice and clean and dry. We always want to start with a dry brush when we're using acrylic paint, especially with purple, because purple, a lot of times purple acrylic paint can be a little translucent, so you don't want to see through your paint. So make sure you have a dry brush. Start with a big scoop of purple, and right along the top of our canvas we're going to do a stroke of purple. And you see I'm kind of starting in a rainbow type brush stroke, so it's not completely straight, it's starting to curve down at the sides. And get the paint, the trick to doing this is get the paint on the canvas, and then you take one long brush stroke all the way across, and that's how you smooth your paint out. Every single time you lift a brush up, you're going to leave a mark, and we don't want a lot of marks. We want it nice and smooth, so nice long brush strokes. Now, here's how you blend. You can't blend dry paint. You can only blend wet paint. So you have to, when you're wanting to blend, you kind of have to paint a little bit fast because you want to keep your paint wet before you start the next color. So I'm actually not going to wash my brush. I'm going to keep whatever purple's in there on the brush, and I'm going to pick up red. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to overlap a little of that purple I just did, come all the way across, come all the way across, and then you can blend up into your purple, and the two colors will blend together. And that color combo is a beautiful color combo. So as we're going, you also want to paint the sides of your canvas and the very, very top. A trick is you start from the back, and pull forward, and you won't get any paint on the front of your canvas. On the sides, you start from the back and pull forward, and you'll get your edges painted, but you won't mess up your painting on the front of the canvas. All right, so this is a little bit of a trick. After red, you need to wash your brush because what we need, we're getting the purple out of our brush. because purple and orange make brown. Yep. Yellow and purple make brown too. So we want to get all that purple out before we start our next color. So go ahead and wash real well and dry. And then get yourself a little bit of orange. And we're going to go right below our red. And we're going to do the exact same thing we just did. Overlap a little bit. And then blend up. That's so pretty. Go ahead, wrap the sides with your orange. Now, if you have a paper towel, you don't need to wash your brush right now, but if you have a paper towel, I just want you to wipe off a little bit of paint off of your brush so it's not a big, thick chunk of orange. And we're going to get a big, thick chunk of yellow on our brush. And what we're going to do with the yellow, it's not the same as what we've been doing. We're first going to draw our horizon line. So horizon line is a line that separates the sky from the water. So a straight line across, and then I flip my brush horizontally, same thing I've been doing the other times. I get this gap going into my orange just a little. You have a beautiful sunset. Now all your paint is wet right now, so if you need to keep blending something, now's the time to do it, because once something dries, like later on, a lot of people are like, oh, there's something in my sky I want to fix and I need to go back and fix it. It's basically impossible without painting the whole thing over again, because once it dries, if I put a color on top of it, the only thing that's going to show is that color. So it's hard to blend when things have already dried and we've moved on. So if you want to do any more blending in your sky, go ahead and blend it now before it dries. Just remember that orange and purple thing, don't touch those two colors. Then once you're happy with your sky ombre, go ahead and wash this brush really well. You want to get that yellow out. Where are you guys from? Did you know that Create a Canvas started in Hawaii? Started as Create a Canvas Oahu, and it was in business for, still in business, but for the past 12 years. And then COVID happened. I came to California. I brought Create a Canvas here, and now we're doing virtual classes. So this is kind of like a homage to my other home, Hawaii. So this actually, if you're not from Hawaii and joining us from Hawaii and you don't know this already, this painting is of a beach called Lanikai Beach on the east side of Oahu. And the mountains or the islands are called the Mokes. And they're the Lanikai Mokes. And the water there is completely clear and beautiful, and the sand is white and powdery. And it's basically like paradise in Lanikai, minus all the people that go there, like Waikiki. All right, so we're going to start on our ocean. We're going to let our sky dry before we put our sun on there. So what we're going to start with, we have a nice clean brush. We're going to start with a little bit of purple, and we're going to take that purple on our edges on both sides. My purple actually had a little blue in it somehow. They're right next to each other. I'm going to get just a few strokes of purple on my edges. I'm coming all the same direction. I want to make sure right along my horizon is nice and clean. It's actually a little yellow in my brush too. Don't want that. Okay, so same thing as our sky. We don't want this to dry or we won't be able to blend. So once you get that purple on, you're going to pick up a little bit of phthalo blue, the blue that has more green in it. It's like and it's hard to tell between phthalo blue and ultramarine blue when they're in the bottle, but you really can tell the difference when they're on canvas. Okay, so with the phthalo blue, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to come from about the center of where our purple stopped, kind of outwards, or inwards, sorry, towards the center. I'm still leaving a little bit of gap down the middle. Now I'm going to pick up a nice clean brush, You can put the one you've been using away, get a nice clean brush, make sure it's dry, and you're going to take your brush and you're going to go all the way across, pulling your blue into your purple. I still left a gap down the center. Okay, we're going to let that dry before we start putting our turquoise down the center and doing any reflection in our water. So your sky up here should be pretty much dry by now, so you can go ahead and go to your medium slanted brush, which looks like this. Medium slanted brush, and I'm going to show you how to make a perfect circle with this brush. So you're going to get, what color is this? White and a little bit of yellow on your bristles. It looks like egg yolk, we'll call it. And how to make a perfect circle is you're going to find the spot where you want the center of your circle to be. I'm holding my bristles with the top of the slant on top. I'm going to set my brush down right in the center of where I want my sun to be, and then I'm going to rotate the brush 360 and I get a nice perfect circle. You can always go back. The more times you do this, the bigger and bigger your sun is going to get. So always start small, but you get a perfect circle. Let the brush do the work. So here's what I'm doing. I'm basically rotating the brush, but you got to press hard on the canvas so that you control what's happening with the brush. So try on a piece of paper first. If you do try on your canvas and you need to correct it. It's just going to get a little bit bigger, and that's fine. This sun is a lot smaller than that sun, so there's no rule about how big or little your sun is. We know it's a sun. All right, now we're going to go to our small slanted brush, and we're going to start doing the mochs. Those are the islands, remember? So what we're going to do, you're going to get, and you can do this with chalk ahead of time if you feel more comfortable, but I'm going to do it with black paint. So if you draw it with chalk, you watch me draw it on here, you draw it with chalk, and then you'll paint yours in black right on top of your chalk lines. Okay, so Lanakai Mochs. The one that's on the right hand side is a rounded triangle shape. So I draw it first, then I underline it, and I'm going to fill it in. So if you're doing it with chalk, you can draw it. You could also look a picture up of the Lanakai Mochs for some inspiration. It's L-A-N-A-I-K-I. No, L-A-N-A-K-A-I. Lanakai. An artist, not a speller. Alright, on the other side, we're going to do the exact same thing. Make sure it's come in a little bit farther from your edge because this one is bigger. We're going to start with doing another rounded triangle, almost the exact same size as the first. But then we're going to add some hips onto it. So it's like another triangle on the other side. And once you have that, draw your line, fill it in. Lanakai Mochs. All right, the next thing we're going to put in is our palm trees. So people can get a little bit scared of palm trees, so I'm going to teach you a couple tricks. Before we do anything, you're going to take your brush, you're going to dip it in your water cup, you're going to get a good amount of water on your brush, and then you're going to swirl it around in your black paint on your palette. So basically we're thinning out our black paint because I'm going to show you right now. We want to be able, when we're doing our palm tree, we want to be able to do one long brush stroke without having to go back and touch it up. So if you don't have enough paint on your brush, or if your paint's too thick, you're going to get stuck halfway through, and then you're going to have to add more paint. So you want a good consistency where you're able to do one long brush stroke without having to stop. So what you're going to do, and this is another one that you can start with your chalk if you feel more comfortable, but we're going to do 2 trunks on both sides. So I'm always starting my sky, so I know where my fronds are going to land. Start up in the sky, and then I'm going to come down, come off my canvas. So you can see I was able to make one long brush stroke without having to go back and fill it out because my paint was thinned out enough. So if you missed that, you need to take your brush, dip it in the water cut, pick up some water, swirl it around in your black paint, and thin out your black paint a little bit. You don't want it to be drippy, but you want it to be thin so that you can get nice, clean brush strokes. So like algebra, what we do on this side, we're going to do on this side. I'm going to start in my sky again, come down, off my canvas. And this painting is a really cool painting because you can do so many different silhouettes with it. And you can really, I want you to be creative with what you turn this into. Like you can put some land down here, you can put a lagoon in here, you could put plants coming off the bottom of your palm trees. So I want you to figure out how you want to make this a personalized painting to yourself. But before you do that, we're going to put some junk in our trunk. So down at the bottom where they come off the bottom of the canvas, you want to thicken it up just a little bit. So I just took my brush and I made a thicker brush mark, and then I filled it in. Okay, now for the fronds. So when we do fronds, there's 2 parts of the fronds. There's the bones of the tree, and when we get those on, it's going to look like a spider. But then I'm going to teach you how to put on the fronds. So what we're going to do, we're going to start on one side of our painting, and you're going to basically all the fronds are going to come from one point. So they don't come down the tree as you go, they all start in the same place. So I'm holding my brush so that I'm basically only using the top of the angle. The top of the angle is where I'm putting the top of the angle in the center of my trunk. I'm going to come over one. Let the tip of the brush give you that fray at the bottom. It comes to a nice little point. So same thing you do on one side, you do on the other side, and we're going to do 6 of those. 3 on each side. Okay, so if your fronds are feeling thick, here's some suggestions. Water down your paint a little bit more, not too much because you don't want it to drip. Press lighter with your brush because the lighter you press, your pressure is important, so the lighter you press, the thinner they're going to be. And they should be pretty long. A lot of people are too scared to do that full, it's like a full sad face. Sad face. And people are scared to do that when they get to here, they think they're done. They should be pretty big. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to put our spider looking thing over here. So the tip of the angle touches the trunk, and every single time I come back, I'm coming back to the center of my trunk. So I know this is the scariest part of the whole painting that you're doing right now. Don't stress. Take your time. If you need to pause, pause. Okay, so once you get, those are the bones of the palm tree. Now we're going to put the fronds on. So this part is really important. So when I'm using my brush for this part, I'm literally trying to use like the very, very tip of the top of the curve. So it's like, just like maybe like if you take your finger and you just grab the first quarter of bristles, those are the ones we're trying to use when we do this. And this is called feathering. So what we're going to do, I need to get myself a little bit more paint because it's on my finger now. What we're going to do is we're going to really quick. The less you think about this, let the brush do the work. All of them should be touching. You're going to put fronds on both sides of the bone. There should always be one right on the tip of the leaf, because that's the tip of the leaf. That's what makes it look like a palm tree frond. Okay, here's a mistake that people make, and I know this is scary. Once you get the first frond done, it'll be less scary. But people think, okay, she said I have to put lines on both sides, and that doesn't really look like a palm tree. Okay, they should all touch each other. I'm flicking my wrist so that the tip of the curve of the brush gives me a nice point. So watch my hand, watch my wrist as I'm doing this. I get in like a rhythm or a zone, and I'm not really paying attention to where they actually get put down. I'm just making sure that it's filled. Okay, so the first palm tree is the scariest, but once you know how to do palm trees, you're going to want to do so many other paintings, because there's so many different sunsets that you can do, so many different things you can paint with palm trees. So practice your palm trees. And the cool thing about acrylic painting on canvas, if you didn't know this, when you're done with a painting, if you don't like it, instead of putting it in the closet or hiding it behind something in the garage, you can take white paint and paint over it. It's actually called gesso, but you can use just white paint instead. And you just paint right on top of it, and then you have a whole blank canvas. I'm going to show you. Let's see if I have. No, I thought I had one that you could see. But basically, a lot of the times when I have a painting that I've painted over and over and over, teaching it, when I'm done with that canvas, I basically just put white paint on top and use it again for another painting. Once you get paint on it, you can't even really tell the difference. Okay, so I have palms. So you keep working on your palms. Pause the video if you need to. If you feel like, I'm looking at mine now in the video and I want to add another frond. So if you get done and you feel like, oh wait, I want to add some more, do it. Be creative. Let yourself explore. All right, we're going to use the same brush. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of detail into our islands. So you're going to make a gray. You're going to add a little bit of white with the black, make a gray color, white and black. And what we're going to do is we're going to start, I'm pushing really, really light, and I'm starting at the very, very top center of the mountain, and I'm basically fanning out some lines. There's lots of like crevices and valleys in these islands, so that's what we're putting in. On this middle one, the bigger one, you're going to outline your middle triangle, fan it out, just like the first one. Then you're going to continue the directionality of that line on both sides. So you see on this one, it all started going left, on this one it all started going right. And if it's too bright for you, if you're like, oh my God, what did I just do? Add a little bit more black to your paintbrush, or once it's all dry, and if you really don't like the highlights that just went on, it's totally up to you. If you don't like it, when it's completely dry, you just take black and go right on top of it. You'll never know. Okay, we're going to put some reflection in our, or some whitewash underneath our mountains. So you're going to wash your brush, add some white. And right along the bottom of our mountains, we're going to tap, 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 tap. A little bit of whitewash. And I'm moving my brush in different directions so it's not all even and organized. Think of what whitewash would look like if it was crashing up on a mountain or an island. It's not all flat. Okay, you still have a little bit of white in your bristles right on the inside edge of your palm tree trunks. You're going to give a little white highlight. You can also do that down some of the bones of your tree. Okay, just a couple more steps. You guys are doing great. And remember, you always pause if you need to slow down or you just want to enjoy the process and keep reliving it. Pause me, turn me off, and come back to me later. All right, so now we're ready for our reflection. So we're going to keep using the same brush we've been using. We're going to pick up some turquoise. If you don't have turquoise, you mix blue, green, and white. I'm actually probably going to make a little bit more green in my turquoise. Okay, we're going to hold our brush horizontally. Think light. We're going to press light, and you're going to start in the center, and you're going to do horizontal brush marks and fill up those gaps. Even though probably to you it looks like I'm zigzagging because I'm going back and forth, I'm very much doing straight horizontal lines. Okay. And because we let it dry, it should look like a natural path. You'll see the lightness underneath this turquoise. We're going to get a little bit more turquoise on our brush, and every so often over here in our ocean, I'm just going to add a little bit highlight of some of this. If there's any places like I just had a yellow chunk over here that I wanted to cover up, some of that turquoise in there. And our very last step, you don't need to wash your brush. Get some white. And we're going to come right down the center with a little bit more white. So basically the same way you just did the turquoise, you're going to put white on top. So it looks like that reflection. Okay, so I encourage you guys to personalize this as much as you want. You can write your family name on it. You can put stuff in your trees. You can put birds. You can leave it just as is. But I hope this inspired you to make more sunset pictures because we'll have more coming up next month. And it made me miss Hawaii. It made me want to go jump in the ocean right now. But I will see you soon, Hawaii. Thanks for joining me, guys. Bye.